Okay, so big breath in and out. Continuing to feel the opening that you've created this weekend. The opening for love. The opening for your heart. And relax into the knowing that you're supported in this. That each and every one of our hearts and souls is supported and loved. And that we are not alone in this journey. That we have an endless supply of light around us and also within us when we turn it on. The Kryon, the star mothers, the entourage, all celebrate us each moment. Each time we say yes to being divine, we are celebrated. Each moment we say yes to being loved, we are celebrated. Each moment that we heal, that we surrender to the path before us that is guided so beautifully by Spirit, we are celebrated. Take a breath. Let yourself feel what it is like to be honored as the human here, opening the portal to their divinity.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. "30 years ago, I came to my partner in a very cryptic way. To him it was frightening, but he got over it. There are those who would ask the man, the engineer, what was the turning point? When you had all of the logic that said this could not be, you had all of the fear from those around you who had said, be careful, it's evil. And yet you went anyway. What was the transition? What convinced you? I'll tell you this, I knew the man well enough to know what would win him over. He wasn't ready for it. No amount of logic can ever surpass love. It cannot. And when he sat in the chair over and over, he had the most amazing love wash he had never had before, ever. In his younger days, indeed, he went to organized religion, and he found love there. He found love there, kept him there. But he never experienced anything like Spirit could give him when he sat in the chair all alone. And that's what convinced him above logic. Love has no logic. Dear ones, you know, you can't explain it. And we've said it before. It's kind of funny to think about it. Two people, one staring into the eyes of the other, they're both taking a deep breath, and one says finally to the other, I love you. And the other one says, what do you mean by that? Would you explain it? And you don't. You can't. And you wouldn't. You all know that even human love has attributes that are so beautiful. It can cause anxiety at certain levels where you cannot sleep at night. There's too much love. Falling in love is the most beautiful things that humans can do. And you can do it with each other, and you can do it with an animal, and you can do it with God. Falling in love is almost eyeball to eyeball. It's a relationship that you have that you can't explain. You can't explain it. Some people may ask you what happened at this meeting, and you can't explain it. You might say, well, I learned something. And when they say, well, what do you learn? It's tough, isn't it? What if you learned that love is so big that it changes your own heart with you? What if love was so big that it goes beyond anything you can even explain to anybody? But you come out feeling different. What would happen if all of a sudden you found that you had something that you never thought you had before, that you were loved in a way you never thought you were loved before? You'd take pause, perhaps. You'd think about it, and some would even weep in gratitude. It's not that God loves you. I'll tell you about oneness yet again. If Spirit, God, is the master creator, the master physicist, the master biologist, the one who has orchestrated life on this planet, then that entity, that beautiful consciousness, knows every plant, every weed, every leaf, every grain of sand on the earth. Not just in a linear way, but in a multidimensional way. The creator of it all. And you can't just say, well, I discovered that God loves me. I'll tell you what you discover. In the oneness of everything, you discover that everything loves you. Have you ever met a tree hugger? Oh, I'm sorry, there are some here. And perhaps you were a tree hugger before you ever got interested in anything spiritual. Perhaps you were the ones that said, well, you know, my spirituality is in the forest. That's where it begins. Because you go into the forest and you feel the unconditional love of nature for nature. You realize you're part of the system of nature. And when you walk next to the tree, some of you can feel the consciousness of the age, of the wisdom, of nature itself. And you say, I'm home. This is where I should be. This is where I belong. And this becomes your church. And rightfully so. It is the beginning of the understanding of oneness. If you ask the tree hugger, does the forest love you? And the tree hugger would say, that's why I go there. Yes. I can go there for solace, and I can breathe the air, and I can feel the love of all things. And even if you weren't spiritual, I'll tell you, you felt the love of God. How do you explain to anybody if you suddenly have a realization, aha, an awareness, an awakening, that to be loved by the Creator is to be loved by every piece of matter in the universe? There is an experience when you walk into the woods, tree hugger, and you know it, that says not only you are one, but there's caring there. The caring is that you are part of the system. And the forest does not then point at you and say, stay away, you're evil. The forest welcomes you. The trees breathe, and they give you oxygen. One of the most amazing experiences to walk into the rainforest. We've said this before, the greatest creation of oxygen comes from that which you call moss. There's more of it growing than there are leaves. And it coats the trees in the rainforest. When you walk in there, you feel so good. You are over-oxygenated. That's what you're feeling. Why would they give you so much oxygen? Dear ones, this is the lifeblood of your system. You oxygenate when you walk into the forest. The trees are greeting you in a certain way that says, you're welcome, you're welcome. And if you could at least begin to transfer that in the civilization that you live in the culture that you live in, even if you're mid-city and you cannot see bushes or trees for a long distance, even if your feet cannot touch dirt and they're only on cement, I will tell you this, that you can be in the forest. Because the very air that you're breathing came from the trees and the moss, who say, I know you, I love you. And you are one with all things. And that is part of the creative source. Can you understand oneness to the degree that to be loved by God is to be loved by every piece of matter, anywhere? The Creator's matter knows your name. And this is why we had said so many times to those who look at God dimly through a glass in an older energy and paint a picture of what they understand from only their own experience, God then becomes a parent. And the only examples they've ever had of parenting is their own. And all through history then, God becomes a human parent. It's as good as it gets because they cannot fathom anything more than that. And you see the result of it because God has then become a dysfunctional parent to so many. The God who loves you beyond measure is the God who will then punish you beyond measure. It doesn't make sense. But there's no judgment in this because this came from an older energy. Before the energy started to develop and enhance itself so that you could see a little clearer through that veil. And the first thing you saw through the veil was not punishment or anger, but light. There are criticisms of those who believe what they believe in this very room, listening to this channel. And when they say you have no substance, you have no prophet, and you have no doctrine. So you just float around in la-la love land. God bless the floater. Because that floater has not just a tree hugger, he's a God hugger. One who understands that a prophet is not really necessary if you can emulate the Creator itself. And so you don't walk around like little gods. You create a oneness of the one God and you participate in the beauty of it. And in the participation of the beauty of it, there then comes wisdom. And the wisdom starts to grow. The man in the chair 30 years ago had no idea about today. And in that growth that he had to learn to get out of the way of himself. He had to learn the difference between channeling information and ego. He had to make up his mind how he had to survive in the channeling experience. And it's different, dear ones, than if you were to survive in a channeling experience. He had love pouring into him. so strong that he couldn't talk. He couldn't think. And so he started writing it down instead because it was safer. He was afraid of what people would think. He made finally the books he had, and he made his name small enough that no one could see it, and he put it on the back. That was fear. It took him years to go beyond that. The human has to get out of the way and practice getting out of the way, and it takes practice over time. But I'll tell you what happens. The body starts to understand what you're doing. Dear ones, as you sit in front of me, are you aware that if you start the progress and the process of progress, of enlightenment, the body knows what you're doing? Every cell was made by the Creator. The patterning of the Creator is in you. Your innate knows who God is and your higher self is. All the things that you claim are higher within you are part of that creative source that you're trying to get to and understand better. And when you start the process, the body understands. And it starts to then give you an allowance for understanding. That's what happened to the man in the chair 30 years ago. That over time, he began to recognize the difference between himself and his consciousness and the pure consciousness that comes from the other side of the veil. And whereas in the beginning he was confused and had no idea, and his channeling was cryptic, didn't flow with long spaces, when he tried to channel in front of others, he sweat. So nervous, so anxious, working so hard. And then there was a time when it got easier and it got better for him. And then there was the time when he could finally relax and understand the difference. And then, a little over a decade ago, when I said to him in the shower, "Are you ready to go to the next level?" I could see his mind working and the great disappointment that he had when I asked him that, because he thought he was at the highest level. You ask linear questions, you always do. How can I do this? How can I do this? What do I do about the duality? What do I do about this and that? Never understanding that you're working too hard. You don't have to do much at all except to accept this wonderful meld that's coming your way through an evolved consciousness and through your innate that says, how would you like to walk all the time in a form of channel? And that form would be your higher self comes in and stays in. You know what meditation is? It's an effort to touch that part of yourself. And in that part, you age less because you breathe correctly and all of that. And the longer you can stay in meditation, you know that, the better things are. And that, dear ones, is accurate and true in an older energy. Today, I will tell you the truth. That meditation is the attempt to get to that meld that my partner is in right now and stay there. You can do this by yourself without the effort of the meditation, and it's always there. You wake up with it, you go to sleep with it, because it becomes you, a constant state of awareness of what is around you and touching the other side of the veil. We have admonished those who call themselves New Age to stop chasing people away, to stop being strange and weird. And there's a reason why some of you do that. And that is so you be left alone. In your own way, to worship in your own way, to be your own spiritual person and not have those bother you. And now we have told you so many times, you accept this meld. You won't be weird. You'll walk around and you will look not only normal, but beyond normal. You'll have a love quotient, which is more than most have. And you'll be seen as loving and wise and safe to most people. The attributes of the masters who walked this planet is they were safe. People could approach them. They wanted to be with them. There was no competition of conversation. The masters of this earth had something in common, all of them. They listened. And when they listened, those who would talk to them knew they were getting through, and they were being loved every moment that they were being heard. This is the new human. The tree hugger doesn't have that. Not that much wrong with that, you know. That's almost all the way there. Without any spirituality, the tree hugger has it all. Now you add to that the knowledge of the spiritual soul that is involved, that you are. And now you know why the forest greets you. Did you know that Gaia was created for you? There are those who believe that humans are the worst things that ever happened to Gaia. You'll get over that, and you will learn the partnership as you stop polluting. But a truth that you should know is this, is Gaia was created for you. That's your best friend, this planet, and all that it represents. And it's so close to the higher self that you want to touch. I close this message again with the knowledge that I'd like to give you and the wisdom I would like to give you. It says this: you are part of the system of beauty on this earth. You never, ever came to suffer. An old energy system will tell you that because that's all they knew. Be the ones to start something new. And that new something is self-sufficient God within, oneness with all things. It brings you to wisdom and a place of balance where anxiety and worry for you personally has got to get into the back seat. Because what you emanate in a meld with spirit is beautiful and light-based. And that will be your normal. The pendulum is swinging from dark to light on this planet and illuminating so many things that are inappropriate. Let this be the same with you. And in that, you will see the inappropriate things in your own life, and you can drop them like a hot potato. You can go the other direction because you will be supported in that decision, and every cell of your body will know it. The trees will know it. The air you breathe will know it. Creation will know it. Let it be so. Leave differently than you came. And so it is. And so it is. It is. It is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Each group of old souls has its own energy. Every single one. This one is unique as well. There is a camaraderie. There is a special family tie here. There are places on the planet where the old soul groups are reincarnate over and over in the same place. And we have said this before. There is a profundity in that system, for it creates a group that is more likely to know one another and have synchronicity with one another. There are other places in the planet that are just the opposite, where you will reincarnate into a culture you don't recognize and spend a lifetime coming back to the one you do. Each human being has their own schedule based upon what they choose when they're not here. Be aware the system is not that of the central source. It's that of the human being's part of the central source. You have a piece and a part of God in you which knows everything. When you're not here, you are part of that which is the creative source. With a wisdom beyond anything you can imagine, you reincarnate yourself in a special way, in a special place, with energies to deal with the planet yet again. And when you came in this time, there was the potential you would pass this marker that we have talked about, and here you sit having done so. This one was special. And in this area, there are many old souls who know one another and who will meet one another and do kinds of things with each other that are different from other places. It's a system of confluence, of consciousness, and it's beautiful. If you knew the whole scenario, you would understand that each soul knows the other at some level in some way. You are so different, dear ones, and that is what it's supposed to be. Your worries and your fears are so different, and that's the way it's supposed to be. However, coming online, if you wish to use a modern term, is something that we have discussed just recently, and that is what we will call the template. A basic review is this. When the Pleiadians laid the groundwork for the seeding of humanity, giving them the peace of God that you have, esoteric seeding, you mixed your biology with them. The result was the DNA you have now, and inside it the things that you cannot see, that are quantum and dynamic, and carry with it those seeds of God. We told you last time that one of the things that the original creation template had was that human beings would awaken as human beings with dark and light awareness and search first for the Creator. No other animal on the planet searches for the Creator. It's not simply the elevated intellect of a human being that allows this, it's the template. And as proof of this, I give you that. Over 85% of this planet believes in the afterlife in some way. That cannot be an accident, it cannot be chance, it does not fall into the bell-shaped curve. It was designed and planned that way, and the template was yours. We told you that the template also included that energy and system which you call karma. The template was real, it was needed, it is your template. It has been the same template until now. The time capsules of this planet created the template through processes that you are not aware of, that are grand and beautiful, that are quantum-based, that is to say multidimensional, and that come right from the creative source. Would it interest you to know that the Pleiadians are not just creatures from another part of the galaxy? They have their DNA working at over 80%. They're almost angelic. In their physics of consciousness, they don't need crafts to travel to other places. They use what you call the process of entanglement, already seen by your physicists, where physical objects can be in two places at the same time. This is not beyond your reasoning. It is simply beyond your normal experience. And they gave this planet several attributes that you use today. This template that they gave you is not a controlling template. It's an influential one. It pushes that, which makes you think certain ways and gives you free choice about what you decide about them. I want to talk about the new template, and that is why we are here. You crossed this marker. A bridge was crossed in consciousness. And we will tell you, you can't uncross that bridge. And whoever doubts this, who leaves this room, history is going to show it. Humanity is different. You're going to leave behind some of the oldest propensities of the template. You're going to leave behind the idea of conquering and greed and conspiracy and power. It takes time, dear ones, sometimes generations, to rebirth consciousness. For one generation to see the folly of what they did the time before. To realize there are better ways to accomplish that which you really desire, which is health, celebration of happiness on this, and lifespans that you have not had before. The ability to get along with the rest of the planet. And you will have different ideas and different spiritualities, and yet you'll have tolerance to get along. And you will see that as the prime directive, for that will create what you always wanted, not war. We've told you before, the consciousness is so startlingly different that there'll come a time in history when you look backwards and everything that was before 2012 will be the barbaric age. This is where it's going, and you are beginning it now. This is year 2. I'll say it again. Have you met any 2-year-olds? And what was your impression? This is where you are. You're just learning. You hardly know what it feels like. And yet there are old souls who have been through this on other places who are so anxious and so impatient because they know where it's going that they're frustrated. When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And the only reason that you're so impatient, dear ones, is because you've seen it and you know what can happen. No wonder you're impatient. It's so different. We told you before, don't expect a utopia. Humans will always be humans. There will always be those who will go to low consciousness with free choice, but they will be the minority, not the majority. Human nature will be that which is prevalent on the planet, and it will be different because of this new template. The template, as described and defined, it helps you to think differently. It pushes you to awareness. Internal, subconscious suggestion that you may ignore or not with free choice. This planet looks for the Creator and has found it. A monotheistic planet. Spiritual belief systems are everywhere. It's the first thing you notice when you go and travel. What is the belief system here? What is it over here? There's always one. Against all odds, the planet believes in God. That's a template. The new template is going to work with several things, but some of them you're going to recognize, some of them you already know, but I have to list them anyway. This new template is beautiful. I should tell you there are 3 more templates coming. This is just the beginning. There are no markers to pass, but there are places where literal inventions will make a difference in what you're aware of and what you do next, and a new template will be needed for you to think beyond where you were before. These are templates of awareness. And the very fact that you have a new one being broadcast from the nodes and the nulls, you should celebrate, because there are those who said it would never, ever happen. The template starts to recognize what we channeled recently, which is the triad. The triad is the new consciousness that involves the 3 parts of consciousness that we channeled about specifically. They are the brain, the intuition, and the heart. Those 3 represent the triad of consciousness. We talked before, you consider your brain as the central of everything. Your brain simply facilitates all of the energies of consciousness. It does not originate them. The brain originates that which is survival. Intuition and innate together, hooked to the Akash and the higher self, are then also processed by the brain, only you see them as differently and they feel different. And now we add that which science is starting to see as a player of consciousness, as an organ you think simply pumps blood, and it's the heart. The heart has the highest magnetic field of any organ, including the brain, in the body. There is more nervous activity in the heart for some strange reason than anywhere else, and it almost is seen by some science as the second brain. The heart is responsible metaphorically for compassion, and it is. The new template will increase the triad's efficiency in your body. That is why the new human being is going to be more compassionate. You're going to be born that way. The empathy for other creatures just like you on the planet is going to drive you into peace. You will not send soldiers to be killed who are your sons and your daughters. None of you will. The idea will be abhorrent. No matter what is on this planet, you will not turn to that. It's barbaric. It is not what humans do. I promise. Every planet has gone through this. And that's where you're going. Hard for you to understand what we're talking about with this triad. A different way of thinking, where intuition and the heart start to play a major part of thought and not the survival brain. You pass the marker, you've come out of the cave of survival, and now you are into elegance. And the triad will be then increased in its efficiency. Along with the DNA, a compassionate soul will start to be born. It's already happening. Your grandchildren are far too compassionate for their age. And you know it. They look at other children who don't have what they have, and the first thing is they want to give away what they have to them. A compassionate soul does not happen at that age with the old human nature. In fact, children on the playground often take from one another instead of give. This is different. Take a look. It's already begun. That was number 1. Number 2 is something called self-balance. My partner teaches it. It has already been on the agenda and taught this very day. But it's on the template because it is not necessarily something that all old souls have. Some of you are not self-balancing and you know it. Something will happen. Perhaps it's chemically, perhaps it's psychologically, perhaps it's even Akash that will push a button in your brain that will create an issue that then you have to have solved by another light worker. This has been common. It comes from an old energy paradigm. And it comes from one which is honored, and that is what healers and light workers are for. Suddenly this one has the old soul self-balancing. You're your own guru. You can see within yourself. It is a designed human attribute that now comes forward for that which is spiritual survival. Self-balance. No matter what happens, if you wait just a little while, it will return to a peaceful state. This is good news for some of you who have gone back and forth and swung the pendulum of emotions. There are many light workers who need to hear this, because their lives, even though a mature old soul, have their buttons pressed from other reasons, even Akashic ones. It means that you have the ability to live a more peaceful life every day. You awaken in the morning, instead of worrying about things to come, you have an overwhelming peace of self-balance, knowing that you'll deal with them one at a time with wisdom. It is self-worth, dear ones. And it's about time. I want to cover just briefly some of the other areas of the template, and they all deal with innate. Innate is the new teaching we have given you before. It has been called the smart body. Innate is that part of your body which knows what's happening corporally, is connected to the Akash, knows about the triad and the heart, knows of the pineal, even knows of the higher self. It is part of the consciousness of you. It is not your subconscious, it's innate. It is a part of your body that is esoterically taught. That is to say, it is new. However, it is also one that many know about, for they muscle test with it all the time, using that which you call kinesiology to discover more that you don't know with your brain. So let me discuss the bridge that is going to start being increased in the innate. The first is the obvious one, and we've taught it. And we'll get through this quickly, dear ones, because we want to teach the others. The human body, the corporeal body, is still a mystery to your consciousness. As odd as it seems, you don't know what's going on inside. And you will. This is the main bridge that's going to be crossed little by little. Human beings will start to be more aware of what is happening inside them in a corporeal fashion. And the proof will be this. You will have intuitive flashes, and you will get a checkup because of it. And there will be discoveries that you will catch so soon the doctors will say, "How did you know?" It's up to you to tell them. This is your innate starting to cross the bridge to the triad. The consciousness, not necessarily even the brain. The heart, the intuitive part of you, facilitated by the brain, will increase the bridge of knowledge between that which is conscious and that which is innate, allowing you, very slightly at first, to have intuition about what's going on in your body. Slowly, generation after generation will show that human awareness is increasing about what is going on inside. You can count on it. The second nose will be passed to the child. Now, we are not going to talk out of turn here. There are a series of channelings we have given for what is called the sisterhood. The sisterhood represents those in Lemuria in a certain time frame, what we will call the last Pachacudi of Lemuria. And those channelings are public, and you can hear them. So what I'm going to tell you now is not confidential. Because if you pass from innate to that which is happening to you corporally as a human being when you're born, you're also going to pass something else. You are in the womb of the mother, sharing the life's bloodstream for all of those months. And part of what you will have, therefore, in this increase is the increase in the mother's consciousness passed to you. Whether it's male or female, the compassion of the female mother will play a more important part because of this instinct than ever before. And you will be born with a different attitude. My partner, I'm not really sure you said that correctly. The template is going to work so you're more compassionate. Could it be clearer? And it's going to happen because instinct of that which is your mother is going to be part of you. And your mother's instinct is compassion. She's a female. And she's going to carry a different kind of consciousness for this planet. And the planet's going to change because of it. Clear? Innate is responsible. There are so many. You're going to be more in touch with Akash. This is the third innate in the series. And the fourth attribute of the day. Perhaps it's even the fifth. Depends how you count these. You're going to be more aware of the Akash. Right now, the Akashic record in your DNA is responsible for irritating you. Because it's not working well. All you remember from your Akashic record are things that are dramatic. A past life drowning. A death carries over the veil when you're born for only one reason, because it is the same level of consciousness you are. Human nature responds to death and drama, and that's what you get from the innate. Now you're about to grow up. And as this starts to grow, your Akash is going to pass the things that really made a difference. Some of the most beautiful experiences you've ever had, you'll dream about them. Oh, you're going to wake up and wish you hadn't because they were so good. And you'll start remembering them. They will shape what you do next. You'll remember celebration and joy and good things that took place with you. All this is a change in the way the Akash responds to the template. A compassionate template for an evolved human being. I'll call this the last one. You're going to have a greater relationship with Source. How can I tell you this? Right now, as you sit in the chair listening to me, there's a relationship. And it's not really a believable one, is it? You report to a room, a man sits in a chair, his conscience leaves him, and in his body there's a beautiful entity as you feel it. I say it's a brother, sister, who comes and gives you instructions. That's your relationship. And for a few minutes, you might enjoy actually the feeling that I give you when I hold out my hand to you and say, let's just join hands for a minute. You can talk to Creator, all right? That's going to change. Your relationship with that which is your higher self, directly relating to that which is the creative source, is something created by the template and the new innate. You're going to know who you are. And when you're born, and as you start to grow, there'll be no question that you're part of creation. How you treat it may be a mystery. What you do with it is your free choice, always free choice. But there come a day when you don't wonder if there's a God. You're going to wonder what part of it you are. And there are those who are so impatient because you've been there and done that and you know I'm right. And you can hardly wait. That's the new template. Oh, there's more. But for now, it's enough. This is what I want to give you. To some, it's far-fetched. For some, you'll have no proof of it while you're on earth. For some. Free choice and discernment. And how you react to this message literally will shape what you do next. How much power over your own life and your own body do you really think you have? The more you believe you can change it, the higher your DNA will cooperate with you and will do the things you tell it to. Dear ones, that's how much power you have. I am Kryon. I will not tell you things that are not so. I know it's a double negative. I will always tell you things that are so. But I want you to know there's no agenda except love. And that's a big one. For it then defines the compassion of God, which you are starting to assume. And so it is.
Hi everybody, I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. What you see here as you listen, as you watch, some of you, is admittedly beyond that which you would expect in the reality that you live in when you're not in this room. The very fact that you have come here collectively to watch this, to feel the energy, says that it is not necessarily something that you see all the time. Or perhaps you expect something different. Perhaps you're hanging on the words to find something special. The channelings that are at the end of these days for this kind of workshop are different. Because we talk about who's in the room. Sometimes the room is those who are listening later for you, now for me. It's more of a personal channel than that which is information which we would list as we have done before. And so we go right to the point. What happens when you leave? When the channel is over, if you're listening to this later, and you get up out of your chair and you go wherever it is that you go, what happens? Right now, in this room, there is an entourage, and we've talked about it before. We invite you to discern that there is one. We invite you to discern that this channeling is not my partner talking. We invite you to discern the love of God, Spirit, whatever you wish to say. This is the energy that has taught with the masters of this planet over and over. Through major cultures and minor ones, through the ancients and the indigenous. Through the energy of Gaia and more. This is what is taught in this time. But what happens when you leave? The linearity of your minds and that which you call real life causes a diminishing in energy when you're not in a group. The entourage is here and it's precious, and we invite you to feel the energy of this entourage. Group, there are those here today in front of me collectively that create a certain consciousness, an attribute of what happens when Merkabahs intertwine. You're all sitting in each other's energy, and it creates a larger energy. And then you go home. Some of you will go home with the others you came from. Many will go home alone. There may be family at home, but you really go home alone. And when you get there, what do? How real is this later? No matter what we do right now, no matter what we discuss and what we talk about, I've said this before for years. This is the part where you sit and I sit, and there's a love exchange together, where some of you can actually feel the creative source and know you're okay. Some are healed in these meetings. Because collectively, because there is this attribute of togetherness, it creates an energy that allows healing. Do you really have to come to a meeting to get this? I want to say something. I want to say welcome to the new earth, where any one of you can go home and create the entourage. Any one of you. I want to tell you, I double dare you. My partner's words. To become the master that you are. The masters who walked the planet did not walk in a group. They walked alone. And what they carried was everything alone. And if you wanted to know what was going on in many of their minds as human beings, there was doubt. There was shock and surprise sometimes at what happened around them and the reactions to them. But they were self-sufficient in their love. They knew who they were. And that alone created an entourage. They walked from place to place. And the people who saw them walk there said, this is different. Perhaps you heard the reports that even the animals knew it was different. And this is where you're going. There is an eventuality, a potential. The snowball is rolling. That every single old soul, every human being who awakens to their own greater power will start to change chemically. The DNA will start to enhance itself physically. There will be more awareness inside. And you're going to last longer. you're going to have revelations by yourself of who you are. And the biggest issues will be things like self-responsibility, awareness of situations you're in that you shouldn't necessarily be in, not in order to let yourself grow. Some of you know very well what I'm talking about. And growth also creates some uncomfortable times. But the masters had them as well. What are you going to do when you go home? Let me ask you a question. Is this meeting a crutch for you? Do you have to come to a meeting like this in order to feel the euphoria of the love of God? Or can you walk out of this place standing tall and say, I can create this in a closet? Now, here's the next question. You're with others and they're not of like mind. Can you create it then? Can you walk this euphoric way with Spirit inside you, giving you right what you might feel now, and be with others who don't agree and are giving you a bad time? What's going to happen when you leave here? Today, there were questions, there were an attempt at answers, and almost uniformly, all over the planet, the questions to channelers, to teachers, to Spirit itself are all the same. And the questions have to do with what, where, how, when, and why. It's almost like every single one of you needs to understand the mechanics of everything esoteric in order to take the next step. And that's human nature. And I'm going to say this. I'll say it again. Why do you do that? Is it really, really necessary? Dear ones, I give you the example yet again. You have a machine called the human body. It's a chemical machine. It gets you from A to B, birth to death. And it operates by itself without you thinking much about it. It's designed that way. And you work this machine during your life, and as you grow up, you learn about it. Some of you are able to control it by the health that you put into it, by the food and all the other things that you put into it. And that's about it. That's about it. Your consciousness, as you've discovered, can alter it, can make it last longer. But it operates by itself. Do you really have to be a physician and study every piece and part to walk from A to B? And the answer is no. You get into the automobile, and it gets you from A to B. And you never, ever think to yourself, I must understand the workings of the internal combustion engine in order to get to A to B. Ever. You never. Because it simply works. Now I'm going to say this yet again. The awakening process of the human being that is spiritual and filled with purpose in this age has automatic mechanics that work within you. As you're aware of shift and change, Spirit is working with you. How many of you are aware of what happens when you awaken at 3 in the morning? And there are many of you who do. And do you wake up and wring your hands and go, what do you want? Or do you have the balance to raise your hand and say, thank you, Spirit, for keeping me awake? Because I recognize I'm being worked on. There's things that need repair and help. There are things that need to be enhancing. I don't have to know what they are. Thank you. You see, it's a system that is designed to work in an old soul by itself. If you open the door, light is coming in, and you don't have to analyze the waveform of it. You don't have to measure the door. You don't have to know why. You really don't. Instead, dear human being, I want you to feel it. It's either appropriate or it's not. That's what free choice is about. Is it fearful? Does it feel good or not? Discernment is not about the minutia of how it works, how long it's going to take, and where it's going. The old soul is beginning to awaken to a bigger purpose and idea. That these things come along when they should. And the more calm you are about all of them, the better they're going to work. But they're going to be stopped if you start to analyze what, why, where, who, and when. It's just going to be stopped. Because those answers, dear ones, are not available in a linear way. You all have fallen in love. All of you. Whether it's with another human being, whether it's with a master, whether it's with an animal. And it's palatable. It's beautiful. It changes your chemistry. You look at each other, human beings, in your eyes, and you're in love. And I've said this before. Do you then stop and analyze it? Do you say, well, what's happening? I can't fall in love unless I know the minutia of it. You don't. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. You enjoy it. You fall into each other's arms and you enjoy it. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. God is in love with you. And there's nothing like it. And I want to invite you to fall into the arms of that which is already inside you, called the higher self, which has the creative energy of the love of God. You fall in love. And stop asking why, or when, or how. There are answers, basic answers about the shift of the planet, where you're going, what really truly is happening. It's about an ascended human race. Human by human, case by case, thinking differently on a pathway that is of a higher vibration. The result, longer life, peace on earth. We've said it before. But dear ones, this is a metaphysical, esoteric principle you're getting from A to B. It's way too complex for you to put it in a box, especially the box of 3D. And there are those who will leave here, and when they walk out the door, everything that was here stays here. Because you just didn't get it. That everything that is taught here is you. It's not from the one on the stage. It's available inside you. Tonight, before you go to sleep, I invite you to retire into a room that's yours only. And I want you to think upon these things. You might even raise your arm and say, Dear Spirit, if you're there, show me. And you're going to get chills. You'll feel even your eyes are closed that perhaps a light is bright and shining on the top of your head. And the higher self is going to wink at you and say, it's about time you ask. And you can carry that light everywhere you go. By yourself, alone. If you are fortunate enough to have a partner or family members or associate that feels the same as you do, now you're a group. It carries even more power, for where there are two or more, it's exponential. But dear ones, it starts with you. Do you dare ask the question, Dear Spirit, what is it I need to know? And you won't get a voice. You won't get handwriting on the wall. You'll get guidance, intuition, and love. This is the new human being. The one who accepts something that is complex, that affects their lives, their emotion, everything, and they don't understand it. But they don't have to. Because the design is that this, dear one, is going to get you from A to B without you knowing why. Can you do that? Discern it with your emotional heart. If you need to analyze it from a point of correctness of feeling. Don't analyze it from what you've been taught it should be, or what normally happens, or what you think happens. There's not one of you who really knows what happens, not even the one in the chair. Everything we have given you is extremely simple, because that's where you are right now. You're in a simple place with simple concepts, working a simple puzzle that is enormously complex. Just like the engine of your car. It's going to get you there if you let it. Do not fear the love of the creative source in your life. Maybe it's time you heard that. When you leave this place and you go home, what's going to happen? The ones listening to this, when you get up out of the chair and go in the other room and you're done listening to the channel of Kryon, are you going to take this with you, or are you going to shut it off? My partner calls it throwing the switch. You live a life, you go to a building and you worship, you dress for it, you come home, you live your life. A and B. And it's time that stopped. I want you to leave this place differently than you came. The entourage is making a lot of noise right now. You can't really hear it with your ears, but you can feel it with your heart. You are known by God, by name. It's time you left and knew that. Climb into the closet and be known by God, by name, with a light shining on your head. That's the message for today. It'll be the message as long as I'm here. And so it is.